Good evening, everyone. Shylla Webb here, education consultant. Welcome to day 3 of Reduce Educator Burnout mini-series. This is a free mini-series. And if you are here watching and if you can type in the comments, let me know that you are here just watching. Let me know where you're even tuning in from. All of that is helpful. So what we did, this was a 3-day part. If you've watched my past mini-series, I try and share this information with you in 20 minutes or less. And I just try and keep it jam-packed, full of really good stuff for you to take and use. Of course, there's always the longer extension of lessons available, and I'll talk about that specifically today for reducing educator burnout. So let's recap. On day 1, we went through the signs of burnout and you were able to score yourself. I uploaded a checklist. If you are here watching, please let me know that you're watching so that I know that you're here. Any questions or comments, throw in. I will try and address in the chat as I go through this. I am newer to live, but I'm getting better. Hey, Ryan, good to see you. So the checklist, I'm coming back to this. Day 1, we talked about the checklist. We looked at the signs of burnout and you were able to score yourself. Out of 12, you shared how much you had. Hey, Molly, good to see you. Most of you scored higher in the hyperarousal or even hyperactive activated state. Remember, hyperactivated is more when you feel really tense. Your muscles are tight, you're talking fast, you're moving fast, you just feel anxious and you're agitated. On the opposite end of that is hypoarousal, and this is where you're just like, bleh. You're just totally disconnected, you become numb to circumstances, and you just feel like you can't engage even when you want to. So those are the 2 different types of signs of burnouts. They fall in 2 buckets. Educator burnout is highest that it's ever been right now, and I am almost starting to think it's a pandemic from the pandemic. I mean, it was a problem even before COVID-19, but now with COVID-19, it's just exacerbated the problem. And it's just really concerning about the teacher shortages that are happening all over the world, but mostly what I study and follow are the teacher shortages in the United States. And of the teachers that we have, we need you in really, really good health. We need you strong. We need you resilient. Hey, Amy, thanks for showing up. Sorry, got a little digressed. Just wanted to say hi quick, and thanks for joining us on day 3. Again, if you are here, let me know that you're here so I can say hi. Any questions or comments, feel free to put them in the chat. So we know what we talked about yesterday was that burnout does not happen overnight. It happens with an accumulation over time. And what we know from the studies that were completed from the 70s and beyond is that any caregiver that's out there, and if you're regularly working with someone, it is likely that you are going to walk away from a caregiving profession with some type of trauma or even fatigue, because we give ourselves a lot. And I even talked about the giving tree, how in that story the tree gave so much that there was nothing left of the tree, and that's exactly what happens with caregivers. Also, like the story of me stacking the bins, if you watched yesterday, I talked about how in the spare room of our house that no one was really using, I put a couple tubs away with every intention of going through that tub a month later, a couple weeks later, and getting rid of it. Well, what happened was this entire room became an overspill of extra stuff. And before I knew it, we couldn't even get into the room, completely navigate through the room because we had all this extra stuff. That's exactly what happens with burnout. We have one afternoon where we just feel exhausted and we feel burnt out. We have one day where we felt burnt out. Then it extends on to a month where we feel burnt out. The next thing we know, we have a really challenging class, and it went on the entire year, and we're feeling completely exhausted and defeated. And before we know it, we have this accumulation of all these little things, and now it has made our stress levels so high that it's hard to tackle anything efficiently and just go, we become less resilient, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So really, the higher the burnout or the more incidences of burnout, what happens is our window of tolerance reduces. And every time those situations happen and we don't address them properly or we don't respond to them thoroughly, then what happens is we lessen our tolerance for situations. And so then the next situation, challenging situation comes on, and we typically respond to that in much more maladaptive sense than what we would if we were completely in a low stress state or not even feeling burnt out. So this can catch up to us, and typically at the time of which it catches up to us and we really recognize is kind of at a time where it's almost too late, or it is so bad that now we need extra help. And I know that everyone likes to tell us that teaching is overwhelming, and right now at this times it is high stress, but I'm here to tell you that it really doesn't have to be. Honestly. Now, I can't change the circumstances, the external circumstances in which you're working. I can't change all the extra demands of the state and federal requirements or the COVID-19 restrictions and all the extra work that has put on your plate. But what I can help you do is help you deal with everything that is there through some super simple, easy, effective strategies. I work also with victims of domestic violence. I guide them on how to manage their stress response system. Many of them have PTSD. What I'm here to share with you today works well with them. And if this works well with them, I know that it's going to work well for you as an educator who hopefully doesn't have that type of past experience. And really all you're dealing with is burnout. Burnout happens. It is a natural occurrence that happens amongst caregivers when we're not staying ahead of the game and we're not being proactive and really putting ourselves first or taking care of ourselves. Now, I'm not going to discuss the typical self-care strategies. You all know that. You're very educated, you're smart, you know what to do. It's a decision of whether or not you've done it or made that a priority of your life. And I'm actually going to say that a lot of times I think some of those suggestions set us up for failure, to be honest with you, because it adds one more thing to our schedule, that a schedule that's already so jam-packed, it seems virtually impossible to fit that in. So what I am going to share with you is strategies that you can actually, we're going to do a little bit right here, and then it's things that you can embed in your already schedule, or the schedule that already exists, excuse me. So what I want you to do is, hopefully you have a sheet of paper. And I want you to take a sheet of paper, or even in your mind, this isn't too extensive an activity, but just draw a line down the sheet of paper. And I want you to identify what are some of your top current stressors right now. And just think what those are. So it might be email. It might be opening up your email box and seeing how many emails that you have to handle in a day, knowing that you only have this little bit of time. It might be working with a particular student or having a couple students that tend to be more challenging. Not that you dislike the student. I believe that every educator goes into education loving students. It is just the circumstances around that situation. That might be an added stressor. It might be all the extra things. You might have to manage online learning on top of what's happening in your classroom. So it might feel like a lot. Okay, so day 2, we really talked about the mind-body connection, and we talked about, I gave the example that if you've ever watched a horror film and you've been at the edge of your seat, and let's say that you're watching Friday the 13th, and you're having, you know, Jason, I think that's the guy, right, with the hockey mask in Friday the 13th. The teenagers are out in the woods, and you know that Jason's right around the corner, and you feel like your heart racing and your eyes are just, and you're kind of paralyzed, and you're just waiting to see what comes next, and the adrenaline is pumping. So that same thing, well, I should go back. Now, we respond to that because our brain really doesn't know how to decipher from real threat versus a fake threat. Jason has never been in my house to threaten me like that from Friday the 13th. But yet, watching the movie, I have this visceral response, this physiological response, as if he's right behind my couch and he's able to get me. And so this same thing will happen. Now, this is a very exaggerated example, but the same thing will happen when we are identifying stressors in our work. So if email is overwhelming and you feel like every time you open email, it's really defeating. Or, for example, I had a parent that I worked with in my earlier years of teaching, and it was just a difficult parent to work with, to be quite honest with you. Every time I opened my inbox, it would be a 1-page, if not longer, email. And there was always so much information to it. So it wasn't like a quick read through email I can quickly respond. It was, I need to read through it. I need to go collaborate with the regular ed teacher. I need to collaborate with my administrator. I just knew that when I saw this parent's name, it meant work. And it meant using up a lot of my prep time, to be honest with you, or before and after school. And so I had developed this patterning in my own system between my mind and body response system that when I would see her name, I would immediately get my armor out, my natural internal armor, and I would go on defense, and I would just feel my muscles go tense. I was more of the hyper activated when I would see this. Type yes if you can connect to that type of experience. If you've had a situation, whether it's a coworker or even sometimes family members can do that, siblings can have that impact on us, where we just know there's a certain behavior and we just lock up. So that is that mind-body connection. And think of those stressors that are happening on your everyday life. We were creating the list of current stressors. So I want you to go ahead and jot down some of those stressors. Then on the other side is I want you to jot down the impact that it is happening, your visceral response that is happening in relation to that stressor. Identify that, okay? Now, I had you identify whether or not you were on the track for burnout, and if you have 4 or higher, you should start getting curious about what's happening and what's going on that's burning you out, because you are definitely at risk at 4 or higher in either one of those categories of the checklist here. If you're 6 or higher, you're at risk. And if you're 9 or higher, you are on burnout. You are on burnout lane, and this is time to intervene. We had also talked about mirror neurons and how when we feel a certain emotion or we have stuff going on or even that tension, anytime, let's say I have Molly and I are having lunch in the staff lounge, and Molly comes in and she's feeling really anxious and just super tense. Just without us even talking about it, by me looking at Molly, my body automatically picks up knowing that she's tense. On the flip side, if I'm relaxed, her and I having lunch together, her system is going to pick up the fact that I'm relaxed, and we don't even have to have that discussion. That is the power of mirror neurons. You know how when one person yawns, another person starts yawning and it kind of goes down the line? That's exactly mirror neurons. We start, our systems are interacting with one another without even communicating that, okay? So if we're all coming in high stress, imagine what that is doing to an entire organization. Eek! That is something to be really concerned about. Okay, so the very first part is recognize I'm on burnout lane. The next part is to recognize this is what's burning me out. These are the things that are happening in my day that are causing my stress response system to be activated. Then we want to recognize the physiological response. So we're creating that mind-body connection and just that awareness. Then what we're going to do is I'm going to teach you the importance of relaxation. Okay? And Molly says this happens on a regular basis, and Elle is like, yes, or Amy, sorry, is like, yes, this is happening. So what we want to do is I'm going to do an exaggerated activity. Now, this is not something that you're going to do in class, but you might have some examples some opportunities. Depending on the age group of your kids, take that opportunity. So when we become, our stress response system activates and we become hyperactive in response to that, our muscles tense up, right? And I'm gonna, I always like to sit cross-legged in my office desk or chair. So what I'm flattening my stance, and I'm just gonna relax my body, and I'm gonna go wet noodle in a sense. So if you saw, I was sitting upright, you know, shoulders were kind of raised, and actually I had a lot of tension in my hips because I was cross-legged, and instead I put my feet flat on the floor. When we put our feet flat on the floor, it actually signals to our brain that we are on stable ground. Okay, this automatically starts balancing out our nervous system. This is a yoga trick. Okay, this is part of my yoga training that I'm bringing, that little tidbit. All right, so then the next part, if I just sit here and I go like kind of wet noodle, So this means I'm leaning, I'm using the support of my chair to fall back in. I'm allowing my shoulders to roll forward if that's what they need to do at the moment. But I'm just releasing any tension that is here. And I'm just going to soften. I'm going to allow my hands not to be tense, and they're, again, just going to soften. I'm going to allow my mouth to fall open if that's what I need to. Make sure your tongue isn't pushing against the roof of your mouth. That's another thing that we do when we're stressed and we don't recognize that. And I'm just going to sit. Okay, so everyone go wet noodle. Then the next thing I want you to do is once your muscles are relaxed, if you feel like there's any tension there, go ahead and release it a little bit more. Then I want you to activate 3 to 5 slow breaths. So just as slow as you can. So let's say your class, you're giving a spelling test and you felt a little tense. In between when your class is writing the words, take that moment to take a slow breath intentionally. So just you don't have to close your eyes for this one. Now, if you watch my mindfulness mini session, I would have you close your eyes. And if you can, close your eyes because you actually get a deeper relaxation experience. However, it isn't necessary. I'm trying to teach you how to do this right in your classroom without anyone really recognizing. So again, you want to take 3 to 5 breaths. The reason why I say 3 to 5 breaths is what we're aiming for. If all you can fit in is 1, go for it. 1 is something to celebrate. It's a win. But it really, at 3 breaths, we start resetting our nervous system and we actually start taking back. So in a hyperactivated state, we go into adrenaline rush. And if we slow down our breathing, we actually slow down our nervous system. And we start taking back and calming down the energy within us. It really is that simple. Okay? So what I also want you to know that if you are in hyperactivated state and your muscles have been tense and you get to that point of like 9 or 10, and we get to that and we've operated on that for a little while of a time, like throughout the day even, it takes 24 to 48 hours to reset your nervous system and get you back down to a calm state. Now that is providing you have been removed from that stressful environment. Well, that's not happening right now these days, right? We have so much happening in the schools and in our classrooms that that's virtually impossible. So what you can do is you can actually activate your, deactivate your stress response system by taking some deep, slow breaths. I want you to go wet noodle. If you can stay and keep your muscles completely relaxed during a very challenging situation or a stressful situation, guess what? Your stress response system can't activate. It needs all that. It needs you to start breathing fast. It needs you to tense up. It needs you to get part into that action and start living that as if it's a real threat. And if you're not doing that and you're slowing down your breath and you're just kind of chilling through it all, you won't get into that higher active state of when we talk about stress levels, I have you measure 1 to 10, 10 being the highest. You won't get into 8 or 9 really fast. It'll actually take a lot, okay? Now, if you're hypo aroused or hypoactivated, this is where you're completely detached. We need you to connect a little bit more, all right? And this might be really practicing some heartfulness, connecting, what do you feel in your heart about this situation? What is there? It might be actually activating your senses just by going for a brisk walk. Here in central Minnesota, we just had a snowstorm. So we have piles of snow, which is really rare at this time of the year. But if you are feeling activated, then what you can do is go for a walk. In freezing cold, it actually will alert your system and it will bring you more present and more aware. Even if you're hyperactivated, I would say going for a walk in the cold is a really good way to switch it up and get your nervous system calming down. Anytime out in nature, you actually start seeking the properties that naturally balance you. But when you can't get out, and if you can't bring your class out for a quick walk, do the feet flat on the floor and take the deep breaths and then go wet noodle, okay? Go back to your list when you have time. Finish that list and look at all those things. And I want you to determine, are they real threats? Because honestly, I talked about emails. Sometimes we'll respond, email. Well, that mom that created a lot of work for me, I mean, honestly, was she a true threat, like where I was threatened for my life? Absolutely not. And was I even threatened for my job? No, I wasn't. And so sometimes we respond because we didn't respond to these 30 emails or get to 30 emails in a day as if we're in true danger. Our bodies will respond that way, but the reality is we're not. And as soon as we tell our brains that we're not in danger, Jason from Friday the 13th isn't behind me. As soon as we tell ourselves that, we actually start deactivating our stress response system. Now, I know you're like, that seems so easy, but I'm telling you, it really is that easy. I have clients that, again, I talk about victims of domestic violence. Some of them have the hyperactivated state. Many of them do have difficulty sleeping and staying asleep. I've taught them anchoring strategies. When they're ready to go to sleep, they tell themselves it is time to sleep. It is time to shut all that off. They work on going wet noodle. They also work on the body scan and releasing any tension. If they wake up in the middle of the night, they just use the anchoring of sleep, sleep, sleep over and over. And the next thing you know, they sleep. Some of them have claimed it's so effective, they're not even taking sleep medication anymore because they've learned to anchor themselves and deactivate their stress response system. So I hope that what I have shared with you today is a game changer like it is for many, many other people. I appreciate you tuning in for day 3. This is the final day. And I know that burnout is such a I don't know. It's like I said, it's becoming a pandemic of the pandemic. It is such a crucial or critical situation that we're in right now that I want to offer more learning to you all. So whether you are a paraprofessional, teacher, or administrator, I'm going to offer a 6-week course. And what this is going to be on is it's going to be on burnout. And in these 6 weeks, we will administer a formal burnout assessment. So you'll get really good detailed information on where you're at. We're going to go through your stress response system and how that is. We're going to dive into that just a little bit more. But the main part of it is I'm going to really teach you on how to deactivate this. And you're going to develop a plan that is deactivating your stress response system in your schedule as it is right now. I'm not going to ask you to make any major changes. I'm going to teach you how to deal with what you have going on right now. And it's going to be a game changer for you. We will develop a very individualized plan for your situation and your circumstances, and you will be able to take that back. What other educators have said is that this type of learning has helped them. Once they learn that about their own system, they are able to help other students, especially those hyperactivated students, tremendously with this information and knowing that. So not only is it going to help you and your stress levels as an educator and social emotional needs, it's going to help your students' social emotional learning needs. If you are a leader, I have an additional leader track because leading teachers that are in burnout mode or being in a building where many people are in burnout mode is a different shift. It's a different mindset. So you would go in the regular track, but you'd also take the leadership track. Okay, so I'm going to post a flyer. I will post in the comments of this day 3 how you can access my course. The beginning course is $297. Again, it's 6 weeks with me live. You are going to get some very personalized attention, a very personalized plan, and it will be a game changer on the stress levels that you have as an educator. I offer money back guarantee. So if you do not get results from this course, and I don't promise what I say, that I don't promise we do. If we don't do what I promise that we're going to do, I offer 100% guaranteed money back. So it is really risk-free. Again, if you are an administrator, I will put information on what you need to do for the leadership track. Thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate everyone's attendance for day 3. Again, if you have questions or comments, feel free to leave them in the chat. I will be sure to get back to you as soon as possible. Also, you can direct message me if you have any more questions or want more information on the course. Let me know. I hope you all have a lovely night. Thanks for joining me. Bye.